Hey everybody, Spellman here, and welcome to the Anubis Academy. Uh, this will be all the basics about what I do, why I do it, and how I did it, to hopefully give you some ideas on how you can structure how you think about things, how you work on things, all the individual parts of your throw. Now, the session you're about to watch, it was a conversation with somebody. It wasn't supposed to be a coaching session, but honestly, it just kind of naturally evolved into that. And he did a great job clipping it up, and also putting the timestamps in there so you can kind of reference very specific parts of what you're needing to either refresh yourself about or what you ever you want to focus on, uh, all of that. So what we used to do is you would have the 2 hours with me and we would go through everything that you're about to watch. And then you would have follow-up sessions. But I want to make sure that now that I have a fairly consistent process here with all of you, that I try to maximize the value you're getting from me. So all the people that have gone through this, I appreciate them. They are kind of what helped formulate this process with me. So instead of you getting the 2 hours with me and us going through all this information, well, now when you get 2 hours with me, it's all of this information already. But then that first hour is maybe you've already watched the video, you've already started working on some things, so you want to talk through what you've been working on, what's going well, what's not going well. Maybe you have some questions about things I said, you need some more clarity, or you need me to elaborate a little bit more. We can do that. Maybe there's some things that you have questions about that we didn't touch on in the video. So that first hour can be pretty much whatever you need it to be. And then the second hour will obviously be a true follow up on everything that you're working on. So I hope you enjoy, learn something, um, and I look forward to following up with you soon. It really happened out of, look, I came up with my own process. It worked for me. So then people would come up to me and ask me, like, what should I do? And I felt bad because, and then even people would come up and say, hey, can you watch my throw and tell me what I'm doing wrong? And I was honest with them and I said, well, no, because okay, if you have obvious issues, like you're short arming everything, okay, that's super easy to pick up. Hell, you probably don't even need me to tell you that you're doing that. But like the lowest average player I work with, he's only like in the 30s and 40s, and 40s at best. He's got one of the best looking throws on camera. Problem is what we can't see on camera is like I can't see where you're tensing up, how comfortable everything is. So like I talk about what I call the 4 C's in my coaching. Now I don't call it that to sound official. It's just, well, they all happen to start with the letter C, so I call it the 4 C's. But I tell them like all the different parts of your throw. It has to be comfortable, controlled, and consistent. If it's not comfortable, so like some people, and maybe you've had this before, where you grab your dart and right as you either pull back or go to throw, like the dart kind of like slips in your fingers a little bit or something like that. So I can't see that on camera. So you could have an amazing, so like all those apps where there's, or all the posts of that new app where they're showing this, what it shows is most people, whether you're a 90 average or a 30 average, they do the same thing over and over again for the most part. So the throw is very consistent one. So they ask for, what advice do you have? It's like, well, everybody else is saying, like, hey, it looks brilliant. You're doing the same thing over and over again. But I don't know what you're hitting. For all I know, you hit a 12 and an 18 and whatever. But again, I can't see how's your wrist action, how's your feel. So honestly, I don't even we look at your throw if you really want to. But the people I work with, we may be changing so much that really I still have them record their throw, but really it's more like a reference point to see, because what some people find, they make big changes and you can clearly see the difference. But then you have other people that they can feel the difference and they're playing better. Visually, everything is still the same. So it's really tough there. But the other side of it is, I can tell you, "Ooh, you're doing this really good. Keep doing that." But I want to go a step further. Why is this good? Like, why is this working for me? So, so you've been playing long enough to know that just because something is working and feels good today doesn't mean it's gonna feel good tomorrow. But here's the problem is that tomorrow, if it doesn't feel good, instead of just going back to the physical stuff that you're supposed to be doing, it's more like you're chasing a feeling. Like I know how it felt when I was playing good, and then you just kind of throw till it feels good again. You're like, okay, I'm back. Then you're going to easily lose it again because, well, what am I doing when it feels good? So I tend to focus more on the process and the methodology that, and a lot of people claim that I overthink everything, but here's the way I see it. Let's say that you're Chef Gordon Ramsay, right? And you're working on a new dish at your restaurant. You've got 3 phases here. All right, you don't just throw a bunch of stuff together and hope that it works, kind of like what a lot of players do over here. And that dish might look delicious until you taste it, but you know, there's that first phase is like the discovery phase of what am I doing and what could I be doing? And then you kind of figure some stuff out. Maybe I want to put some red onion in there or white on whatever it is. You figure out all the ingredients. So the ingredients of a dart player is like your grip and your wrist, this is where a lot of and then you got the elbow, and then you got the shoulder, then you got the throw speed, then you got the release point, then you've got the aim and some other little stuff in between. So there's a lot of individual things. Or like say a musician doesn't learn an entire piece of music at once. They break it up into little sections, they master each one. And if there's a section that's particularly difficult, well, they just spend more time at it. They slow it down if they have to. And then when they put it all together, they have a finished piece. So Gordon Ramsay, he's putting that dish together. He finally finds his recipe. So phase one is that discovery phase, what's working, what's not working. But then when you figure out what works, you know what you're doing. You know that I always hold it right on the fat part of my thumb, the fat part of that first finger. I know that my wrist is always lined up, say edge on with it, whatever it may be. You know exactly what you do. So then if tomorrow something doesn't feel right, you can go back through, well, I know that I play my best when I do this, and you can repeat it. And suddenly your slump isn't really, you still have slumps. I still have ups and downs, but you know how to get out of them a whole lot quicker. But then you're in that second phase where now Gordon's following his recipe. He hasn't done it but a couple times. So he's still having to be very mindful, thinking about what he's doing so that he can have as perfect a finished product as possible. But then so that's just discipline, making sure you're being repetitious. But then there's like that third phase where it's you've done it so much now, you don't even think about it anymore. You can just run in the kitchen and just throw it together and you're good. But if that dish doesn't come out perfect, if you taste it, there's no thought, but you still know, oh, I forgot to put this in there, or I didn't put enough of this, or I put too much of that, or whatever. I guess the dumbed down version of it is like I tell people when you have a runny nose or a stuffy nose, you're not thinking about it. You just know there's a problem right here. And then based on your past history of how you dealt with that issue, you're not overthinking how you handle it. You just, I have a stuffy nose. Maybe I take some medication to help with some inflammation. If I have a runny nose, I just go blow my nose. And if it keeps happening, okay, then I'll take some medicine. That's all we're doing. That's all I try to help people figure out in darts is we're not overthinking. We're just understanding what's happening. And then we react to it because, well, we already know what we're supposed to be doing. So I don't know. And then even if I take it a step further, like the practice drills, I give none of my players practice drills because I really don't think genuinely that you hit your target because your mechanics are good. I don't think you hit your targets because you practice the targets. You hit them because your mechanics are good. Like, like take Michael Van Gerwen, for example, or Luke Littler. I can promise you the only time they practice triple 14 is if they're in a match and they need a triple 14. They hit it because everything works the way it's supposed to. Uh, like I said, I haven't seen all your videos, but I've seen a couple of them. And you know, so when I start, this is my process. But when I started talking to people, it takes me a good 2.5 hours to really talk through everything. One, so that you can ask questions, but two, I can work through all the things like what works with a grip and what doesn't work with a grip. I'm never the type to say, no, don't do that, do this instead. It's more like I'm going to say, this works for 95% of the players, so it's likely that it's going to work for you. But if it doesn't, perfectly fine. Look at guys like Chizzy or Minshire or something like that. They do their own little thing, and they made it work for them. But there's a reason why you don't see a ton of players doing that. They all have very consistent things in their throw. I commented on somebody earlier where there's kind of two types of throws, and the one that I really preach on is, and I don't know if you've heard this in other videos, maybe people that you've talked to locally. I hear it in videos all the time, and I've seen it from my local people trying to help others. But they'll talk about getting that elbow up high, 90 degrees and all this stuff, and then throw. Uh, if you watch any high level pro, nobody's doing that unless you're short. because what we're doing here is so I call it the chop versus the zip line. So the chop would be like, okay, so my elbow's here, my elbow's up, and and then I'll do this. So that elbow doesn't really go anywhere. It stays here, and now you're kind of chopping at your target. Now, if you can get that release point right, you can kind of make it work for you. But otherwise, that hand is kind of going up. So if you release too early, now you're kind of dropping and floating that dart in. If you release at just the right point, cool. Now you're nice and level to your target. But if you release as you're coming down, well, now you're either going to drag it low, and maybe you've done this before. You can kind of tell that you're releasing late, and then you kind of like jab and push the dart towards the board. We don't want that. Instead, what I tell people to do is put that dart in a direct line from your eyeball, basically to your target, and then it's just like we're tracing a zip line. So like, let me blow this up over here so I can see a smidge better. But like these cards right here, if I imagine that there's a steel cable, super strong, that goes from these cables straight to my eye. Well, if I do the other way where I wanna do this and let that hand come up really high, well, I can't do that because the cable would stop me. So the only way for me to do this comfortably is to drop the elbow. Basically, instead of my wrist being back, now my wrist is a little bit more like I'm about to give an oath to something, but I'm pinching that cable, and now I pinch that cable all the way through. Now, if I keep my elbow where it's at with that choppy throw, then I finish way down here, and now I'm doing this. Now you could get away. This right here is still better because at least that hand is in line with the cards in your eye and longer. But now if you release late, you're dragging it low. Instead, what I try to do and what I notice a lot of other pros are doing is when they get about right here, if that elbow stays where it is, again, you come down. But if you let that elbow lift up, now it's just a straight line through my target. So if I want to hit that 180 sign, I'm here, push straight. And if I, but then you get, once you do it enough, it gets super easy to make little adjustments. So if I want to go, even though they're behind me, I can kind of see it in the little square over here in my view. But if I want to go straight through the cards, if I want to go just under the cards, if I want to go above the cards, now it's a straight line the entire way through. So even if I lift my hand, I'm always in line with my target. So it would be it's just, if you look at it, it's a little bit easier to go on a straight line because instead of you trying to like drop that dart in or adjust there, it's just straight line to the target. Now, one thing I always tell people is you don't want it to be punchy. It's still going to feel like you're doing this. The only difference is that once you get here, you let the elbow rise up. So I tell people, it's like you want to punch somebody in the face who's eye level with you. Well, if you go to punch and then just keep your elbow here, you're going to either bash them on the top of the head or you're going to punch them in the chest. Instead, no, you punch straight through. But when you do this, your hand still it's still doing that chop. It's just, again, the elbow kind of. I don't think people play basketball over in the UK as much as they do over here, but it's kind of the same action. It's they go to shoot and the elbow rises. It's so, yeah, if you're a shorter player, like if you're a Martin Schindler, if I yeah, my elbow might be up higher, but it's not because I'm throwing in a straight line, it's because I'm throwing up at my target. So again, it's almost like if I make a circle with my finger and I just try to put that circle right. So if I'm right here on that 180 sign, you can almost see that if I had a dart in my hand right now, it would be pointing right at that 180 sign, and then I'm just pushing in a straight line at it. So now, but even if I showed you that, the one thing that a lot of people can't see is this is the view that I think is a lot more helpful because now I can see, are you going in a straight line? Like if I line up, I've been having issues with my throw, and I think only recently have I realized it might actually just be a vision issue. And when I say vision issue, not saying that it's bad, just that something has changed and I need to change the physical side. So I used to line up just to the right of my eye, and then I would throw and everything was perfect. But now I'm here and my arm wants to come across my body. So I hit a massive amount of five. So only recently did I kind of realize that, well, if I'm here and I close my eyes and I just trust my arm to go straight, when I do this, I'm not going to open my eyes, but I feel like it's right in line with my right eye. Like it naturally lines up right there. So then I started thinking, I was like, well, instead of fighting that, if my arm wants to come here and finish right here, if I just trust it and see where it wants to go, what if I just, okay, if this is where my arm finishes, what if I just start here instead of over here? It's not a big difference, but as soon as I came here, I could close the eyes and it's just without even thinking about it, it's here. and it's straight, meaning that I could probably play you one on one right here and shoot with my eyes closed. And am I going to shoot the 90 something averages? Probably not, but I'm still probably going to outplay a little because I'm hitting my, you know. Um, but yeah, but that's what makes me think that it's not about practicing targets. Like it might be a placebo, like you might build confidence up here, like, man, I've been missing double 20 like crazy. But okay, today you practice them and you hit them 20 out of 20 times. That's amazing. But that doesn't mean you're never going to miss it again. That just means today, whatever you were doing mechanically was just better. But now going into tomorrow, you just feel better about it. And because you're more confident about it, like no one likes double nine, but like I haven't thrown a single dart today, but like if I come over here and I say, okay, I got double nine for world championships, I do everything I'm supposed to. So obviously I'm not giving you my full coaching thing, but I know exactly what I do with my grip. I know that I have it a very certain way. I know that I have my wrist a certain way, my elbow a certain way, everything's relaxed. And then I just throw straight at my target. So even if I have double nine for a world title, I'm not worried about winning or losing. I'm not thinking about the pressure of, oh God, I hope I don't miss it. It's just all I'm trying to do. And you might still feel that pressure, but I just try to focus on like breathing, relaxing, and do what I'm supposed to. I'm not thinking about hitting anything. It's just line up, relax, here, and then throw. I missed, who cares? I'm here, I throw, I missed, who cares? I throw, I missed. I knew I wasn't going to hit that was a terrible first dart marker for me. But it doesn't matter. Even with no warm up, I can be right there. And then same thing, if I line up my shot, line up again, direct line, now I'm right on it again. Then I'm here, I'm right on it again. I'm here, I'm right on it again. I'm not worried about hitting my target. I'm worried about repeating the physical thing for me to hit that. Now, and again, those are my first 6 darts of the day. But even if I say I want to shoot the bull with my eyes closed, I line up my shot the way it's supposed to be, close the eyes, and then shoot. Line up, close the eyes, and then shoot. Line up, close the eyes, and then shoot. Now, that one was a little bit off, but I hit 225s. Again, the idea is not that I'm trying to hit anything. It's that I understand what the physical parts are doing. And then as long as I can trust my throw to go in a straight line, I can't really miss. And now imagine if you're warmed up and your eyes are open so you can actually see what you're doing. Uh, and it makes it a lot easier. So I focus more on feel and the physical side than trying to tell you, oh, your elbow's dropping or your elbow. Obviously, there's things you don't want to do. The elbow lifts as you go forward to keep that hand level with your eyes. But on the drawback, yeah, we don't want any movement. When I'm drawing back, it just wants to be a bend of the elbow. We don't want it to be a lift or a drop or anything like that. Because I associate misses with something I'm doing physically, I'm not worried about, again, like, okay, I'm missing. That's the visual result of what I'm physically doing. But now it's okay. So now I have to figure out where is the problem. Most of the time, it's pretty easy. Like if you hold the dart wrong, you can feel that compared to what you're supposed to do. So it's not as hard as people think it is. Um, but it's just knowing, okay, I'm holding the dart wrong. But if you don't know what you were doing to hold it right, how do you get back? How do you correct for that? If I'm holding the dart wrong and I can feel that, but I know how I'm supposed to hold it, I can very easily, if I pick up and I'm just too far, I'm too far back. And I can feel that. I can just bring the dart back down, reset, and I'm right where I need to be, and then I throw. I don't even have to think about it. I just know what I'm supposed to do, and I can feel that something's wrong there. There are some issues though that are more tough, so it's like a domino effect. One issue causes another. I had an issue where I was sitting here throwing, and my grip and my wrist action just felt god awful. Uh, and I kept trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So then I like took a step back and I worked on each piece one at a time and like really slowed things down, almost like I was working in slow motion. So, okay, I know I go pad of the thumb, the pad of that first finger, kind of like in the knuckle-ish area, and then that middle finger just kind of relaxes, and then I would kind of throw really softly, like in slow motion, because I want to be able to feel what am I doing, and that felt fine. Okay, so maybe it's not the grip. Let me try the wrist. So I do the same thing. My wrist, I kind of go through two different things. So when I help people with their grip, I try to get them familiar with something that already feels good in their hands. I don't want them to feel like they're throwing something like this because in every single sport, there is almost nothing that is shaped this. I mean, maybe a javelin, but most things are they're ball shaped. So I based my throw off of because this right here feels amazing. Like it just feels easy. But I'm sure you're aware if I hold the dart in the back, that feels different than if I hold it in the front. But if I hold this, I started paying attention to why does this feel good in my hands? And I was like, well, the weight is there. It's right on the fat part of that thumb, right on the fat part of that finger, and that middle finger is just kind of resting on the front, like almost on the side, and it just feels good. So this is more of a balance and a guide. I'm not applying pressure or doing anything. But then I also noticed, and I'm sure you do this. I've worked with 150, 160 people now, and I have yet to find one person that doesn't tell me that even people that have only been playing for like 2 weeks, it's whether you're in the car, you're on your way to league, or you're sitting at home watching TV, or walking down the hallway at work, and you think about darts, and you just do the little fake whatever. But I told people, I was like, could you imagine how good your throw would feel if this right here is what your throw felt like when you don't have anything in your hands? So I tried to see, well, why does this feel good? Well, one, there's no weight there, there's nothing there, so obviously that feels good. But I tried to pay attention, what are my fingers doing? And I noticed, well, the fat part of that thumb is right on the side of the fat part of that finger, and that middle finger is just kind of resting there. So it's literally the same thing as when I hold that ball. So if I have two things that I can use as like a reference point of this feels really good, then that's when I would try to do that with my dart. It was okay. So I make bigger jumps first and then fine tune from there. So it's not like I would go here, oh, that didn't work, and then go here, and then go here, and then go here. No, instead I'd go from the back, then the middle, then the front. Okay, well, if these two felt fine, then this is probably that area that I need to be in. If you've thrown a dart that just felt amazing out of your hand, but it was a fat five, I'm sure you would probably rather your throw feel that way than if you throw a terrible feeling dart that went into the 20, into the whatever. With that good feeling throw, I can adjust to that. I can work with that. So for me, it's about feel. If I feel like I have control, it's comfortable and consistent. That fourth thing is confidence. If it's not quite comfortable, if it's not quite consistent, if it's not quite controlled, and control being like, that little slippage there, then I can't really be confident in it. But then I also always remind people confidence has two parts itself, which is, you might try something new and you're like, ooh, this is working. You might have confidence that you figured something out that will eventually work, but right now you need some time with it. But until you're doing it either one consistently or at least see the results at a big event where there's pressure, you don't have that full confidence that says, okay, this does work. So all I care about is feel right now. But so I tell people I had a very specific feeling I was looking for. I wanted that weight sitting in my fingers, and I wanted to grab my dart the same way that I grab that ball or when I have nothing in my fingers at all. So I focused on, okay, pad of the thumb, pad of the finger, that middle finger's just kind of relaxed. And then I kind of worked up and down the barrel until it didn't feel like I was throwing this. It felt like I was throwing this, which was a lot more comfortable. But then like wrist action is more there's multiple ways I can hold it. Like there might be more like a James Hurl where he kind of has that like almost the back of his hand more towards the board. There's people that are a little bit more edge on. Then there's people like Danny Lobby from our side. He likes to have more like palm open towards the board and throw. But there's multiple ways that it feels comfortable. So like when I go through my coaching, I don't tell people what you should or shouldn't do. It's more like we're going to try them all and we're going to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And then once you kind of settle in on, well, this is the only one that just felt super easy. I saw decent results. Everything felt good. Well, then that's probably what you need to do. But then you need to be disciplined to stick with it. So I know that I'm just ahead of my balance point. So if I find hopefully there's a slick part right there, so it makes it a little bit tougher because it wants to roll down my finger. But if I find that balance point, it's fairly level. But I don't want to be on the balance point. I want to be just a smidge ahead of it so that when that dart starts to lean back, I can just feel a smidge more of that weight in my fingers, which gives me that illusion that I'm holding something like this. But like I have to be able to do that consistently at the line because sometimes that can be difficult. So I even come up with stupid little ways to make it easy for me. So I was never a Star Trek guy growing up. I was more of a Star Wars guy, but I still know the whole, live long and prosper and all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of how my fingers sit. So in my offhand, my hand is always two fingers down, two fingers up. Why? Because on the back side of my dart, it's only that spot visible. So when I reach in, I'm only ever grabbing the same spot of the dart every single time. If I was a rear gripper, I could easily have three fingers down, one finger, and it's always the same spot. If I was more of an actual rear gripper, it's just something stupid I come up with to be super. But now I don't even have to think about it. I'm always, and if I don't quite grab it right, it's just like that little, like a little spin to get it just in the right spot, and then I throw. Now for me, I guess I'm basically giving you like the shortest version of my coaching is part, because now I genuinely enjoy this stuff, obviously. And after this, I'll send you like my condensed version. It's just like if I have issues with the recording or something like that, it's just a more generalized version, just so you can kind of review it. But I talk through like your body wants to do certain things. So you can either do what your body wants to do or you can do what you want to do. Like, let's say that your body just wants to come across your body. No matter what you do, it just wants to go over there. You have two choices. You can either say, well, how can I make this work for me? Or how can I do what I want to do? This one right here is going to be a lot harder because if your body wants to go that direction, you're fighting it. And you can do it. Again, it's just harder. But one of the things that makes that a whole lot easier is your hand, or sorry, your wrist, especially. And I mean, it incorporates your entire hand, but your hand only wants to go one of two directions naturally. It either wants to follow the edge of the hand like you're about to karate chop somebody, or it wants to follow more of the flat part of the hand like you're about to slap somebody. So if I line up right here and everything feels good, it might look to you like I'm lined up on the camera, but if I don't move anything and I just open up my hand, well, you can see some of the back of my hand because I'm actually lined up this direction, not towards the camera. If I want to be here where now you can't really see. Okay, there we go. Now you can't really see my palm. You can't see the back. Now I'm actually lined up with the camera. My hand wants to naturally move that direction. That's why I hit a lot of fives because my natural lineup wants to be right here. This just feels good. The problem is that my hand wants to move this direction. So it's tough for me. I hit a lot of five because I'm in the middle of a tense match and my body just does what's comfortable because I don't have any tension whatsoever in my upper body. And then I end up throwing a perfect feeling dart, but it's a fat triple five. And it's never a straight dart. It's always like one of those angled darts because I threw across. The thing is even though it felt amazing, I have done this long enough to know, just like Gordon Ramsay can taste that dish and be like, I put too much salt in there. I did this. I know that I didn't line my wrist up properly. And that's why I missed. But then the next time I don't overthink it. I just do what I'm supposed to. So the next time Gordon makes his dish, he doesn't overthink, oh, I forgot to put the salt. He could, or he could just do it the way he's supposed to. You know, I try not to think about that. So like I know, like say football over there is a bigger sport. So if somebody goes to kick the ball and they accidentally kick it off the side of their foot and it goes that direction, okay, well they go up the pitch and then they come back and the ball's right in there and they get another shot at it. I guarantee they're not thinking about the fact that, man, I just kicked this off the side of my foot. I hope I don't do that again. They just kick the ball the way they're supposed to. They don't think about it. But now if every kick is off the side of the foot, now they know what they need to work on off on the side. But anyway, so if I'm following the edge of this hand and I'm trying to go straight towards my target, well, the other option is I could also kind of turn and have it more palm. Now, it's going to feel really uncomfortable to have literally the palm here, but also, even if I did that, the dart's going to be sideways. So it's not actually the palm that we're going with, it's this fat part of the thumb. Why? Because even if I'm edge on, when I close my hand, what wraps around? It's the thumb part here. When I grab my dart and I go to lift it up, what is the tip in line with? It's in line with the fat part. So if I can be right here, so it's not like I'm twisting my hand all the way, but I'm not edge on either. I'm right here. This feels comfortable. And then I just let my wrist just rest. It's not pulled back. It's not cocked back. It's basically limp, just the other direction. But then I just push this fat part of my thumb right towards my target. So when I talked about that flat line, I just push that thumb straight through the target. Again, if I want to hit the 180 sign, it's just straight up through the target. And that's it. So now my wrist action feels really good. My grip feels really good. And I do want to, emphasize that knowing what to do is different than being able to do it. Because sometimes, yeah, this thing up here gets in the way. So like, and it's for me, the biggest struggle is the feel side. So I always say the physical side of the game is your grip, your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder. And then the feel side of the game is the release point, the throw speed, the actual aiming, stuff like that. Those things are much harder to control or do consistently. But like if I know that, man, if I throw super smooth, just slow, that's when I'm at my best. But my brain today just says, I want to throw fast. Then you're like, I can either do what my brain wants to do and I can do this and it's comfortable, but you're not going to be as accurate. You've built your entire mechanics around a certain thing. You can get away with it, but it's not going to be great. Or you can say, you know what? No, I'm going to slow down because I know that's when I'm at my best. Sometimes you can be successful right away. Nope, I want to slow down. Okay, perfect. I'm back to normal. But sometimes your brain, right halfway through, says, no, we're going to go fast. And it's like a speed up right at the end. Or you start to throw too fast and you can pick that up. And then you start to slow down and then you like kind of short arm and jab. And all dart players do that. So sometimes this guy gets in the way. But as long as you know what you're doing and know what you should be doing, then you're going to improve. So when I tell people, okay, if you're going to work on your grip, you don't want to make changes until you know, well, what am I actually doing right now? Now, it's been so many years since what my grip was doing before I worked on it. I didn't even care. My grip felt fine, but I wanted to know. I don't want it to feel fine. I want to know that this is what I need to be doing. So if I'm having an issue where, like I said, maybe I'm just constantly missing left and my hand is going this way, well, what am I doing? Because if I'm going to fix something, if I don't understand what I'm doing now, how can I adjust to that? So again, I try to get people to think about the more of the science side of it, because darts ain't magic. If I do this, the dart doesn't go over there. Every time you miss, it's your own fault. But every time you hit something, it's also your fault, you know? Um, so then when after we talk about the grip and then the wrist action, because I tell them there's 9 options here because there's really only 3 directions I care about. Is my wrist more rolled forward, like those old what was it, Bristow and stuff like that? They'd be here. Now, real quick before I get into that, I don't adjust my wrist. I don't close my fingers. I don't do anything once I start my throw. So if I line up here and I have that wrist here, I pull back and I keep it there the entire way through until I push through. So if I roll my wrist a bit forward like those guys did, it's terrible because I'm here and I hold it the entire way. I guess Connor Scott kind of does that a little bit. He kind of has that wrist here and then just kind of pushes. It feels terrible to me. So because so rolling forward, being more centered, like again, I'm about to give an oath, or cocking that wrist back is the only directions I care this way. But then the only other directions I care about is left, center, right. So am I rolled forward and then left, center, right? Am I centered, left, center, right? Am I cocked back, left, center, right? I don't know. So I have to try them. But like I said, those first 3, rolling that wrist forward, felt dumb. There's a difference between something just feeling bad versus feeling weird. Feeling weird is more like, okay, I'm going to try to throw left-handed today. It's not that it feels bad. It's just I'm not used to doing this. But I feel like if you gave me enough time, I could maybe figure it out. You've seen other guys that have had dartitis switch to their left hands. And have they gotten to the peaks that they were before? No. But have they kind of gotten proficient at it? Yeah, because they spent time with it. But okay, so then I don't want to cock my wrist back either. And I'm not telling you not to do these things. But for me, I can at least give you an idea of why I don't want to do these things, which is if I cock my wrist back, but then I also try to push in a straight line, I put it's more of a catapult, and I end up pushing the dart a lot higher. But sometimes, especially in more tense situations, if my wrist is here and I lock that in as I push forward, I can feel that tug a lot, and over time it starts to get kind of sore and painful, and I don't like that. So I didn't do it. The only thing I like about cocking the wrist back is it like locks that, like I can't go back any further, so it just locks it in, so you have a consistent position. But I don't think that trade-off is good enough for me personally for that tension I'm introducing. Instead, like I said, I'm just kind of in the middle. Like I said, it's more of a 45. Rolled forward, it would be straight. 45 is more just up and down, like I said, like I'm giving an oath. And then cocked back would be more of that 90. But then I have to think about, okay, so if I come over here, I can either hold this the entire way, which makes it really easy to have that traditional follow through because, well, I'm pushing with this part. Again, not the palm, but this part. Every so often, I still miss into the 5 because I'm here and my body wants to follow my actual palm. But I can feel that and I know I did that. I'm not worried about it. If I do it 1 out of every 20 throws, who cares? If I do it every throw, okay, now I need to pay attention to it. But other than that, I'm just here, push forward, nice and easy. Here, push forward, nice and easy. The only other option you have is you can like rotate that wrist But I've seen maybe one or two players do that where they're kind of here and then they kind of rotate the wrist as they come through. But my body, like symmetry, I can't rotate and then go straight. My body wants to continue that rotation, and it's terrible. So I don't do that. But then, okay, so let's say that neither of those work for you. Well, now you know that if I ever feel myself turning that wrist to be more palm open to the board, I don't throw well that way. So you can immediately recognize what this feels like and say, oh, I know why I missed that last start. I need to make sure I'm a little bit more edge on. So now you're not thinking, you just understand what's going on. And then you try the next one. Okay, so now I'm going to be a little bit more edge on. I'm going to grab that dart. You almost have to pay attention to how this looks in your peripheral vision because I can tell, I can see my palm. Even though I'm looking at the camera, I can see my palm just like I can see the back of my hand. But here, I can see it's almost like just the thumb. But I'm here, I throw, and I find, okay, that's working for me. Then what I would do is I would write it down, center, center. Because if you're like me, you might be throwing great today or tomorrow or whatever. Then you take a day or two off and then you come back to throw. And there's some aspect of your throw where you're like, what the hell was I doing? Was I here? Was I here? It's like you completely forgot how to throw a dart and it doesn't make any sense. You're like, I've been playing every day for 5 months. I take one day off and I forget how to play. I got tired of that. So now I understand what I'm doing, but now I also have a process that got me there. So even if I did forget, I can just run through that process again and I'll find it. But more importantly, I write it down. So pad of the thumb, pad of the finger, wrist, however you need to write it, just so it's like that visual, not maybe not a visual, but a written reminder of what you're supposed to be doing. So now, okay, so now I can say center, center. For me, center, center made sense because I wasn't forward, I wasn't back, I was centered, and I wasn't left, I wasn't right, I was just centered, whatever. And then you could try it this way. I've tried it. So I'm thinking of like Ronnie Baxter, Kyle Anderson, and some of those guys. They made it really work for them. So it can work. Even Luke Littler and Luke Humphreys, right when they get to their face, they have a little bit of a curl. For me, if I can get that timing right, oh my God, I can't miss. The problem is I spent enough time with it to know that I'm just not consistent enough with it. And I need to do something that I can be more consistent with. But because you're not Spider-Man. So unlike here where you can hold this wrist the whole way through, if I'm here, well, we can't hold that wrist the entire way through. So the only option is to rotate. Well, if you don't get that rotation just right, be all over the place. So yeah, for 4 or 5 minutes, it was just 140, 180, 140, 140, 180, 180, 140. But then out of nowhere, it would be double five and then a 12. And you're just like, what the hell? Because either I don't rotate and I just kind of push across, or I tense up because again, sometimes we tighten up. So if I tense up, my hand can't really rotate. It just pushes that direction. And it was just happening too much. I gave it many days to kind of see if I could get through it, and it just wasn't. So for me, I settled in on that pad of that thumb right here. I know, so the grip, there's pad of the thumb, but for the actual wrist action, I'm thinking pad of the thumb. So now every time I walk to the line, I've got my dumb little hand thing right here. So I'm always grabbing the dart in the right way. But then I just make sure that palm, that dart is basically in a straight line to my target. That palm is here, but it's in between, maybe not like above my eye, but either right in the line of eye or just below it. So somewhere in here. And you'll see that a lot. Some people will be right in front of the eye, or like MVG's a little bit closer to the mouth, whatever, but it's still in this line. And then I just throw in a straight line. And then we kind of already talked about the elbow, because then in my videos, I try to talk in or even in my coaching, I try to talk in order because I record it. If you need to go back and listen to the elbow, I don't want you to jump around in a 2.5 hour video. I want you to be able to say, oh, we just talked. Okay, he's talking about the wrist here, so that means we're about to talk about the elbow. But we already talked about the elbow. The elbow only moves, or should only move, when we go from here to about here, and then it lifts. We don't lift here because now your hand is coming all the way up here. It's just, I always tell people, do things without a dart in your hand. Like I said, or like you pretend you're trying to punch somebody in the face that's eye level with you. It's here, then you punch. So that feeling here where your hand is going straight and it's still eye level, that's how we want it to feel. So now you have a reference point, just like I had a reference point with this ball for my grip. I have a reference point of this is what it should feel like. This is what it should feel like. So then if I don't do that, I can feel it and I can correct for it. I can feel the difference between a choppy throw versus a more of a push. When I say a push, again, I don't want it to feel punchy. it should still feel like you're doing this. The only difference is, again, right at the end, that elbow lifts to keep everything level. Uh, but then, like, so the shoulder was my biggest issue during, and I figured all this out. Unfortunately, I had to do it on my own. We didn't have coaches over here. But during COVID, that's when I did all of this because maybe you've experienced this, or and if you haven't, the people you're trying to help, they certainly have. They'll make a change at home, and it's super comfortable, and man, they're playing so much better, like noticeably better. But then they go to county darts or league darts or whatever it may be, and now they're under pressure, and that thing that was working for them suddenly ain't working no more. And then they panic and they go back to what they know and what they're comfortable with, and then they stick with that. Well, whatever you were working on obviously was working. You were playing better and you were excited about it. The only difference is there was no pressure. So it's not the physical thing you need to change. It's just trusting yourself that this clearly works. I'm in a pressure situation. So if you can sacrifice some like short term success for long term success, then you're going to be fine. But for me here, I would always, when I would go to lift my arm, I would always lift my shoulder as well a little bit and then like lock it in. And because everybody told me and everything I saw online was get the elbow up. Well, for me, the only way to get that elbow up was to get everything lifted. And actually, here's a little trick that I show people. So they're always like, well, how do I know that my elbow should be here or here or here? Like, how do I know? Well, the first thing is the visual. Is my hand in between my target and my eyes? But the second thing is I notice that if I just kind of as weakly as possible start to lift my arm, there's a spot about right here ish where if I want to go higher than this, I have to actually try. Like I have to actually lift my arm. Now I may not be lifting here, but I'm still applying pressure here to lift. So that means there's some tension there, and you're going to have that tension the whole way through the throw. So what I do is when I line up my shot is I'm as lazy as possible picking this up. And when I hit that spot right here, I just bend at the elbow, and guess what? I'm right in front of my eyes. So so now I don't have to think. So it's like my little shortcut, like over here. It's just I'm lazy. And even if I got my eyes closed over here, I can just turn my head and I just know I'm right in the same spot every time. So I don't even have to think about it. It's just a feel kind of thing. But that allows me to not have any tension or lift in my arm. It's just I'm here. So then when I push forward, now my elbow can lift freely. Because if you have to like apply some tension here to lift your arm, you have that tension in it. It's almost like you're like locked in holding your elbow here because you have to hold your arm up. So when you throw, you're going to have tension the entire time, even when you lift the arm. So I want to remove all of that, be nice and loose. But what I needed to do was I needed to stop lifting my shoulder. So unlike the first two ways I worked on my game, which was, okay, I have a very specific feeling I'm trying to find, or the second way, which was, okay, just process of elimination because multiple things felt fine with my wrist. Now it was like, well, my shoulder only goes up or it goes down. So there wasn't a whole lot of options. Well, okay, fine. Again, I have to understand what am I doing now so that I can make a change. Well, what am I doing? When I lift, I can feel that I lift it, not a ton, but I lift my shoulder, I lock it in, and then I throw. Well, now that I'm dropping my shoulder, well, it felt significantly better right away because I'm 6'3". I'm right at 300 pounds. I don't know what that converts to over there, but I'm chubby and I'm tall, so my arm is heavy. So if I'm lifting and holding that arm up, it's no different than me just walking around all competition with my arm just hanging up in the air. Right now, it's fine, but if you ask me in a couple minutes, I'm going to want to put my arm down because it's heavy. So all that tension and tightness I would have at the end of an event, I didn't have anymore. The problem is that the change I made was, well, if I'm lifting my shoulder, I need to drop my shoulder and I need to keep it down right here. And so when I throw, oh my God, everything felt good. I almost immediately took a big jump. The problem was that anytime I was under pressure, if you put pressure on a spring, it wants to pop open. So if I'm putting downward pressure on my shoulder and I'm tight and tense, and I'd go to throw, instead of being nice and smooth, I would like pop the shoulder. Every now and then I'd still hit the double, but I was onto something here. So sometimes you don't know what you're changing. Sometimes you do just got to wing it a little bit. But I knew I was onto something. If I keep my shoulder down, I play amazing. I play so much better. It's so much more comfortable. The way I was doing it here wasn't working for me. I eventually went into like I would watch Boris Kirschmar because I was like, well, I can only lift or drop my shoulder, so I don't know what to do next. But I'd watch Boris, and he would like reach out, then pull back and throw. And what I noticed, well, if I reach out, my shoulder's not up, it's not down, it's just kind of like in the middle. So I would reach, and then I'd poke that elbow as far out as I could to keep that shoulder level, and it made it really difficult to go up or go down. And I'd do this here, and then I'd throw, and oh my God, I took an even bigger jump because now those big doubles I was missing because I was under pressure, I was hitting them because, well, my shoulder couldn't bounce up and down. The only problem is I'm putting so much forward tension, my shoulder would be absolutely killing me. But now I got to trade off like, okay, do I want a shoulder that's killing me and winning, or do I want something that's more comfortable and I'm not winning? So you kind of have to make the choice there. But it wasn't until the fourth way that I work on my game. And if you didn't pick up on the third way I work on my game is sometimes you do have to make random changes. You have to know what you're changing so that if it works, you can either keep doing it, or if it comes close to working, you can kind of follow that breadcrumb trail. And if it doesn't work, then you know what you tried and it doesn't work. So for me, I knew what I changed, which was whatever. I'm just going to push my shoulder down. It wasn't until I was at a wedding. Uh, I'm I don't know if they have the same stereotype over there, but in the U.S., Italians are like known for like talking with their hands a lot and stuff like this. So I'm not Italian, but people make fun of me because I talk with my hands a lot. And I've smacked many dart players accidentally because I'm talking to somebody at a tournament and I do this, and right as somebody happens to be walking by. Uh, but I was at a wedding, so it wasn't even dart related. I was at a wedding. Somebody came over to meet my wife. I didn't know that she was walking back from getting a drink. And so I was like, oh, yeah, she went to get a drink. And I did this, knocked the drink, smacked my wife, knocked the drink right out of her hand, whatever. So they made fun of me. But I was sitting there while they were getting to know each other. I started thinking, I was like, when I'm sitting here and I'm doing all this talking, I'm not doing anything up here. I'm just like moving my arms and I'm lifting here and all this stuff. And I was like, am I an idiot? Did I just spend a year or more working on this? And I never thought to, when I go to throw, to basically let this just be limp and loose, almost like it's paralyzed. So what I had to do was the first couple times I had to cheat. I would lift and then I'd have to let the weight settle because I could still tell that I was lifting my shoulder just a bit. I was still tensing up just a bit. So when I would do this, I would let that weight like settle, basically go right here. Now I could feel the weight right here. So now I can feel the difference between when I lift my arm, am I lifting here or am I lifting here? I can feel that difference. So in the middle of a match, there's no thought. There's just, oh, I can feel my shoulder. So I just relax, let that weight sink in, and then I throw. But again, now that I knew this, and I will say this: when I first started trying to the limp shoulder and throwing, man, I was not very good on the board, but it felt amazing. And I didn't have any jumps, whatever. So sometimes you can take something that just feels really good and say, okay, let me work with this. And you may find over time, okay, while this feels amazing, I'm just not seeing the results on the board. And okay, maybe it's not for you. But over time, I started to hone it in. Well, I talked about people are scared to make changes. Well, that was basically me. So I'm playing for potential world championship spots. So at tournaments, I was doing the reach here, throw, but at home, I was working on the relax, the shoulder, use everything else. Eventually, at a tournament, my shoulder was killing me so bad I was going to drop out of the event. But there was a pairs event, and I didn't want to bail out on my partner 5 minutes before the event. So I said, okay, fine, I'll play this one event. And when I do the new thing where I don't use my shoulder, there's not really any pain. So let me just do that. I'm going to suck today anyway. So what does it matter? And then I just blew through the field, waxed everybody there. I don't know if you've ever played cricket before, but I won cricket. So I played Stowe Bunts in the final. I averaged a 7.4. I think I went I hit 920s, then triple, 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 then triple, triple, then triple, single bull, double bull. I basically shot a perfect game. But that was that moment that I had that second half of the confidence come through that says, okay, this works. I'm good. I can trust it. Oh my God. Yeah. And I haven't gone back since then. But now I have to put it all together and make sure I'm still doing it. So every time I walk to the line, it was okay, making sure the pad of that thumb, that wrist is here, my shoulders down, and then throwing a straight line. Pad of the thumb, pad. So now I know what I should be. I don't say that in my head. The second phase, okay, I did my discovery phase, which is okay, pad of the thumb, pad of the thing, whatever. The second phase was staying disciplined and doing what I'm supposed to. I figured out my recipe. Now I just need to do it. But then the third phase is now I've done it so much, it just happens. So when I'm at the line, I'm not thinking, okay, pad of the thumb, pad of the finger, but I just know what it feels like now to do it. And if I can feel that I'm holding it too far back, or I can feel that my wrist is not quite angled the way it's supposed to, I can correct it without even thinking about it because I know what I should be doing. I think now, because I've gone through my process so many times, Very, very quickly. I can make changes very quickly, commit to it. Like even if I come do something like Modus and I want to try it, let's say I want to try fusions. I just I just bring fusions with me. I don't even bring my traditional stems. Why? Because I want to commit to it. I don't want to have one bad day and then be like, I don't know if this is working for me. Maybe I should go back to the other. I don't care. I'm going to try them for a week. And if I'm not successful, that's fine because I'm thinking of long term success, not the immediate. And if I trust it completely and it fails, then I know and I won't use them again. So it's kind of the same thing here. Is I can just buy into it. Now, early on, it would have taken longer because I wasn't as comfortable with the process. But let's say that you go through my process and you start figuring things out. Well, every time you figure something out, you get more excited about it. But you also build like your own confidence that like I can figure this stuff out. So now, a lot of people they'll go through a slump and they're like, "Oh my god, what am I doing?" And they have no idea is that slump going to last a day, a week, a month, a year? I have no idea. Whereas me, when I go through a slump, there's two things I think about. The first one is it's just annoyance. It's annoyance that great. Now I got to go spend 2 hours on Tuesday to sort it out and whatever. Like I already know I'm going to figure it out. I'm just annoyed I have to take the time to do it in the first place. So there's no more panic, there's no more whatever. But here's the other thing: I've never come out of a slump worse. I've always come out of a slump better. So, as annoying as they can be, what it does is it helps you kind of really uh, lock down. I can't think of the word I'm thinking of, but it it just makes sure that what you're doing is what you're doing. I can't think of the word. Reinforces. I'm honest with people. Like I tell them, like I'm not going to say, "Hey, look, if you just do what I tell you, if you follow this process, you're going to be amazing." I tell people, "You might not. I don't know that." But what it does is it gives you. It's like it's you could apply this to any type of job. There's a process you take to improve, and some people just don't, and some people do, and they really excel. That's fine. So I actually show this to people during my coaching session, which is my Dart Connect averages over the last 10 years. So 10 years ago, I was a mid 60s shooter. I made a change in my throw and I jumped up to the mid 70s. Now at home, like when I practice against the computer, that's the blue line. At home, my practice was continuing to get better. But my tournament play dropped right back down to where it was. 2020 is when COVID hit, and that's when I started to really focus on what am I doing? So I kind of cinched it up a little bit, worked on my process, got a little bit of an improvement. But when I got that confidence boost that what I was working on was working, and especially that shoulder issue, that's when I took that massive jump up to that high 80, low 90 range. But what I show them there is it's not going to happen overnight. Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to make an improvement for 10 years, but the improvement is just going to be steady and gradual. And then, yeah, you might be stagnant for a year or two and then take a big jump and then be stagnant for a year, then take a big jump. I can tell you just based on that chart, when I was in the mid 60s, jumped up to the 70s. Well, for that year, I was excited, like, oh my God, I'm actually competing and I'm winning events. But then that next year, when my at home tournament stayed high and then I dropped back down, that's just expectation and pressure. I don't drink. Like even away from darts, I don't drink at all. So I don't have anything to help with stress and pressure and all that stuff. So now instead of going to an event just to play, now I'm going to events like one, I want to prove to people I can actually play and I'm actually putting the work in. I want to see the results of the work I'm putting in here at a tournament. And it would put so much pressure on myself that I would play terrible. And I would struggle because I'd be like, well, why am I even putting in all this work if I'm just going to shoot a mid 60? I was doing that before I started working on my game. Um, and all this and all that 60 to a 70 change was I was making fun of my buddy because I used to be a lot more like closed shoulder. Uh, I was making fun of my buddy because instead of him being a little bit more, he always had his arm like way out here and then would come in and throw. But I noticed, I was like, when I do this and I open up that shoulder, it feels more comfortable. And almost immediately, I just opened up my shoulder a little bit, like turned my body a little bit more sideways. Oh my God. And then that's when I had that jump. But again, I had the drop because of expectation. It wasn't physical. We could still see my blue line kind of maintaining and going up. So when I was comfortable, I was fine. But when I wasn't comfortable, I wasn't fine, you know. But then, like I said, during COVID, I pulled it together. I could play a whole lot more. I'm comfortable. I'm playing from home. We're playing big tournaments. I started to see the results because I might put in a massive amount of work for 3 months to go to this big tournament, have one bad match, and my weekend's over. But now during COVID, it's if I played one of the best players in the country and I lost that night, it didn't matter because I got to play the next night and the next night and the next night. So now you start to see the results of the work you're putting in. And that's when I was able to bring that up. And then I developed the process I have now to understand, well, what am I doing? What should I be doing? And then how do I correct if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And then that's when I had that big jump. Now, my at home play when I'm comfortable is as good as it was 4 years ago when I was at my absolute best. Now, the tournament play started to dip. Why? Because it's like going to the gym. If you're not maintaining, if you're not putting time into the gym, you're going to lose some of the gains that you had in the gym. Well, I'm spending more time doing this type of thing than I am practicing now. And I'm fine with that. When I take the time to practice, I'm as good as I've ever been. But I spend most of my free time doing this. So yeah, my tournament plays drop, and I'm fine with that. But then, real quick, and I know that, like I said, this ended up being probably way longer than what we planned on. So if at any point you got to leave, let me know. But but like, so the next three things that I always work on with people is once we have the physical stuff, because that stuff is easy to manipulate. Do I have my wrist here or here? What's hard to do is I want you to throw the dart at the exact same speed every time. I want you to release the dart at the same spot every single time. That's hard. So, and the unfortunate part is I can't feel what you feel, just like you can't feel what I feel. So it's this section usually goes quicker because all I can give is advice and what to look for. So like even I almost forgot to give you my reference point for the shoulder thing. So I tell people that if you lift your shoulder, if you tense your shoulder up, or if you're not even sure if you put shoulder into it, I tell them pretend there's a dartboard right there at the floor, and all you're doing is throwing down at it. Well, if I do this, I'm only doing this and bending the elbow. So even here, I'm still bending the elbow to lift because I'm throwing in a straight line from my eyeballs to the carpet. But because I don't have to lift my arm to throw at something on the wall, there's no reason for me to do anything here. It's just bend the elbow, throw, bend the elbow, throw, bend the elbow, throw, whatever. So I can remember what does this feel like? And then I can use that reference point to come up here. And if I'm here and I throw and it felt exactly the same as right here, I know I'm doing it right. If I'm up here and I throw and I can feel a little bit of a pinch because I'm trying to tense up or I lift, I can feel that and I know I'm not doing what I'm supposed to. So I need reference points to tell me what I'm, because I can tell somebody, hey, I want you to get that elbow down and then follow through. And if they show me a picture on a video, and I'm like, oh no, that looks great. But what it doesn't tell me is how do you feel while you're doing it? Does it feel punchy? Does it still feel fluid and smooth? Does it feel like, what are you doing up? I can't see those things, which is why I don't really put a lot of stock in the video. Like it's good for super obvious issues that we need to address, but at some point, like I said, if your throw is perfect here and then you're right here and perfect on your target, like what am I supposed to tell you? Hey, everything looks good, keep at it. And then, but you're only a 40 average, so like at what point? It's tough. Darts sucks. Even when you know what you're doing, it's hard. You know. Uh, but like with throw speed, I tell people it just needs to be fluid and smooth. I don't care. I can show you players that throw fast. I can show you players that throw slow. It doesn't matter. If I come up at this speed, that's the speed that I want to throw at. But like I don't just suddenly stop. It's here, and then I like slow down, and then I slowly go fast, and then I'll speed up or whatever I need to do. It just needs to be smooth. Like if you're driving your car and you see a red light, you don't just slam on your brakes as hard as you can, or you don't, when the light turns green, you don't slam on the gas. Maybe you do, but most people probably shouldn't do that. But it's just like you slow down and then you slowly speed back up. That's the way that I see it. So even like a Michael Smith, it's very symmetrical. It's just here, 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 here. And even if you watch Michael Smith, a lot of people would give him as an example of, well, Michael Smith has more of that choppy throw. And I tell them, I assure you, if you slow it down, he doesn't, because otherwise it would be here, 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 here. Instead, it's here, and then he throws straight. And then he throws straight. Then here, then throw straight. Everybody, I'm telling you, everybody at that high level, it's here, and then eye level straight to the target. Almost, I don't want to say everyone, but it's pretty much everyone. Because I'm sure there's like Chizzy. Okay, I'm not going to use him as an example, of you know but but I always just tell people it needs to be smooth. If there's because for me, if I kind of have like one of that like sudden quick movement, I feel like my whole body wants to move with it. Or if there's people that are here and they do like a quick little jab backwards and forwards, it's just very sudden. Then you have to hit the brakes and then you have to go for it's just very violent. I don't want to say violent, but it's just very jerky. And you can feel that. And you can feel just like I guarantee when you throw a good dart, it's almost like you didn't feel like you were doing anything at all. It's just smooth. And some of it's just trusting yourself to do what you're supposed to. And two, when I stopped worrying about winning and losing, I started winning a whole lot more because now it's I tell people you're playing three darts or sorry three darts. You're playing darts three different times. One is when you're taking like serious practice and you're really working on stuff. That one you're really trying to hit your targets, but you're not really under pressure the same way you are at an event. Then the other time is going to be well, you're at pub darts or you're at a tournament. You're at somewhere where now it matters. There's a penalty to missing. So now you're under pressure. So of course you're maybe not going to be playing your best. But then the third time that you're playing is sometimes when you're just talking to your buddy next to you and you're just kind of throwing at the board. You don't care what you're hitting. You're just killing time. You know that they're calling board for the tournament, or you're just throwing because you're chatting, whatever. That's probably when you're playing your best because you're nice and relaxed. You're smooth. You're not thinking about what you're hitting. That's that feeling that we need. So when I play darts, I try not to worry about whether I hit the shot. I just make sure I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to physically, relax. It's almost like I'm throwing again with my eyes closed, just relax and then just smooth. Try and trust it. And if I hit it, great. And if I don't, I'm going to be very disappointed, but I'm going to feel good about that attempt. I missed it, but you know what? The throw felt fine. It's okay. We'll live. Yeah. So then the second thing I tell everybody about the release point, I tell them I don't think about my release point whatsoever. I'm not trying to time it because if I do the same throw every single time, like that straight line, yeah, if you have more of that choppy throw, where you let go of the dart is going to matter. But if I have more of this straight line shot, I don't care. Like if you just have a ball that you're playing catch with your buddy with, I guarantee you're not thinking about the the release point. You just throw the ball to your buddy. You just throw the ball to your buddy. You just that's it. So I'm not thinking about that. Instead, I'm just letting my fingers naturally open. So if my hand, so even though my hand, if I just let it close kind of naturally, all the fingers kind of come together. If I push and if I keep everything nice and loose and up here, if I just push forward, my fingers come apart. Just like if you've seen like funny dog videos or something like that, where they start to run too fast and their head kind of kicks back, but like a little bit of whiplash. I have a little bit of that. So if I'm lined up right here and I want to push this part right here, if I push forward, I don't know if it's the force forward, but it causes my hand to kind of open up a little bit. So my hand just naturally opens and releases the dart. I don't have like a flick. I'm not snapping. I don't get the power. I don't feel like maybe if we super slow mode it, maybe I do get the action from the wrist, but it doesn't feel that way to me. Instead, it feels like I'm releasing the dart, here, and then I release the dart, and that dart comes out smoothly, and then I finish the throw. And I only finish the throw. I don't snap my wrist at all. Instead, it's if my wrist is loose and I just push my hand forward, it just falls over on its own. I'm not doing it. It just happens. So if I'm here pushing a straight line, the two fingers, I know it's a little bit hard to see, but the thumb and that finger just kind of separate on their own, and then it's just straight to my target, and that's it. So I always encourage people to don't think about and I'm not saying don't think about your release or don't try to do something, but maybe just for a short period of time, just trust that you can let go of the dart the same way that you let go of your ball, the ball when you throw it with your buddy. Is just here, try to let go of it, and that's fine. But you can feel if you let go of it right at the very end. I can feel that. But otherwise, when you let go of it about right here, which is where the pros actually let go of it, it just feels smooth. It feels easy. I tell people it's like if I was riding in a convertible car and I didn't have my seatbelt on. If I'm going 60 miles an hour, 60 kilometers an hour, whatever it may be, and I hit a wall, well, I was also going 60 kilometers an hour in that car, which means that the car stops, but I don't. So if I'm throwing this speed or I'm throwing this speed, that's how fast the dart's going. I don't need to think about getting extra flick or push to the board. We're not that far from the wall. So I don't think about that whatsoever. So my advice is one, release earlier because too many people let go at the very end of their throw. Pros are letting go of it here. But if you can, instead of releasing earlier, just let it happen. And especially if you have more of that straight shot to the target, you have, like I said, it's okay. So if I'm here and I'm doing this, I have right here. This is the only time I can really let go of that dart because it's nice and level towards my target, or at least that's the idea of it anyway. But if I'm here and I'm between my target and my eyes all the time, I could theoretically accidentally let it go a little bit early, right on time, a little bit late, and I'm still going to be kind of okay. Doesn't mean you're going to hit your target every time, but it might be the difference between still hitting a 20 versus a 5 and a 1, or something else. Uh, but yeah, so those are my two suggestions. I'm not going to tell people what to do because again, what works for me may not work for you, but I can at least give you an idea of why am I doing this. There's a reason behind it. I'm not just going to tell you and then just let you figure it out on your own. But then the last part is my aiming. I can't aim the way that I aim if everything else that we just talked about before doesn't also fall in line. In order to be consistent, I need the physical parts to be good. Then, like my throw speed, just to confuse people, well, not on purpose, but I tell them my throw speed is the most important part of my throw, but it's also the least important part of my throw at the same time. Mostly because when I'm playing my best and that throw speed just feels fluid and just perfect, that's when I play my best. But if I start throwing a little bit too slow or a little bit too fast, as long as the rest of my mechanics are good, I can still hit my targets. So it may not be as comfortable as a win, but I can still get the job done. But I need all the parts working together. I need the physical consistency, then I need that release point and that throw speed just right so that I can aim. And how I aim is I don't aim at all. Instead, I throw in a straight line. So if I were to shoot a gun, whether you shot one for real or whether you just played video games, if I line up my gun right dead center of my target and I pull the trigger and I miss left, and then I line up dead center of my target and I pull the trigger and then I miss left, what do? You don't shoot the bullet faster. You don't adjust the physicalness of the gun. Instead, you just do this. You just slide over to adjust. Okay, now I pull the trigger. Now I'm dead center of my target. The problem is I'm a little bit low. So now maybe what you do is you adjust. Okay, so I know that right here I'm dead center of my target, but I'm a little bit low. So now you say, okay, what happens if I go up a little bit? What happens if I go down a little bit? And then you can find that sweet spot. Maybe I know that even if I have my gun down here, I know that if I look at my target and I go just up and to the right and I pull the trigger, I'm dead center. I could pull that gun down and then up to the right and then up to the right. I'm allowing that natural, what my body wants to naturally do, to fall in there. So I'll come over here real quick to give you an example that I give to people where I can work through an issue that I have while taking that principle of I just throw in a straight line. I don't care what I hit. I just want to throw in a straight line so that I can learn how to adjust from that. And then one other thing to keep in mind is if I have a dart that felt bad, like I shank it, I push it, I do whatever, I don't care about that dart. I only care about the darts that felt good out of my hand because, well, if I throw a good dart, that's where it's going to go. Of course, if I shank a dart, it's going to miss. But so if I come over here, let me turn on my light here. So what I tell people is, and I'll try to talk a little bit louder because I think my audio is still back here. But let's say that I lost my right eye. So I'm right-handed. I line up right in front of my right eye. But let's say that I lose my right eye. So, okay, so now what do I need to do? Well, I don't want to change anything physically. All I'm going to do is instead of lining up under my right eye, I'm going to line up under my left eye. And then I'm just going to throw the dart straight, just see what happens, see where it goes, see what I need to adjust to. So if I close my right eye, line up under the left, and then shoot. Line up under the left, and then shoot. Line up under the left, then shoot. All right, so I'm up and to the left. Of course, you're not going to figure this out after 3 darts. So if I do it again, close the right eye, line up center on the 20, and then shove. Line up on 20, then throw. Line up on the 20, and then throw. All right, so clearly I'm missing to the left. Now there's 2 things here. I need to tell you, how do I actually line up my dart? And that's when I line up here. Well, actually, I'll come over here and show you because it'll be a little bit easier. All right, so everybody does something differently. I think I've heard Gary Anderson uses the flight itself, whatever it is. For me, when I line up, this finger sticks out past my hand just a little bit, just how it does. So I'm using that in my peripheral vision. So if I want to line up dead center of the camera, what I'm actually doing is I'm putting that little, again, I'm looking at the camera, I'm using my peripheral vision. So this just looks like a little half invisible finger blob that just kind of sticks out. But I just put that little blob dead center of the camera. And then I just, like I said, almost as if my eyes were closed, I just throw. So if I do this one more time, if I line up, eye closed, and then throw. Line up, eye closed, and then throw. Line up, eye closed, throw. All All right, well, I'm still consistently over to the left. What that tells me is, and typically, if I'm a little bit more warmed up, like if I've done a couple sessions, I'm almost all three darts right in the fat 12. But that tells me two things. One, it tells me that I'm not trying to hit the 20. Yes, I'm lined up on the 20. I'm staring that 20 down, but I'm not trying to hit it. I'm just trusting my arm to go in a straight line. So I'm missing left. So now I have a couple of things. So if I were to lose my right eye, I can now say, okay, so I constantly miss left. But before I can change something, I have to figure out, well, what am I doing? Why am I missing left? So the way I look at it is, okay, so when I'm here, this is where my hand is. But if I open up my hand, again, my hand is, the edge of my hand is pointing that direction. It's not pointing at the camera. So my hand naturally goes left. Then I line up again, my hand naturally goes left. Because even though right here, this is fine, the more I rotate my arm, well, now it's like the target is like sweeping across the room. Okay, so now maybe the first thing I do is keeping that right eye closed. Instead of lining up here, I just make sure that my hand is actually edge onto my target. So if I do that here, line up the same way, keep that eye closed. Oh, that's, I know I hit a 12 there, but that's one of those where, oh, I didn't let go of the dart. So that one, we wouldn't even count in our, because again, we only care about the good feeling darts, but right eye closed, I'm here, and then that's better. And then here, and that's better. So I at least pulled it to the right. Again, yeah, I missed way to the left in the first one, but I could feel that not only did I let go of the dart late, but I tried to account for it, and I ended up kind of pushing the dart. So don't care about that. But the two darts I actually released on time, all of a sudden, I'm to the right. So that could be a solution. But let's say that turning that wrist feels uncomfortable. So now your other option is okay, if this is where I'm normally at, instead of lining up here, I'm not going to turn my wrist. Instead, I'm just going to pull the arm out. So now instead of lining up on the 20, I line my hand up on the double 4. So if I do the same thing, right eye closed, but on the double 4, and then shoot. On the double 4, and then shoot. On the double 4, and then shoot. Okay, well, that was a lot easier. The problem here, though, for me personally, would be like, okay, so if I have to aim, if I have to put that hand right here to hit right here, well, what happens if I need a double 11? That means I have to like put my hand way over here to hit the, like it, to me, while it works, it seems like it's going to be way too hard to kind of get that line kind of right. So then maybe you do a little bit of both. Okay, well, this, if instead of me turning my wrist all the way, maybe I turn my wrist a little bit that feels comfortable, and then I come out just a little bit. So now maybe I'm right in the triple 1. So if I turn the wrist a little bit more straight into the triple 1, down there, into the triple 1, down there, into the triple 1, down there. Now, terrible first dart, so I knew one of those darts is probably going to get drug in there. But that felt, one, so much easier, and I'm still in the range that I need to be. So now I just need to know that, okay, I need to make sure that that wrist is a little bit more straight, again, the fat part, and then just pull that hand out just a smidge. And then if I open my eye, well, it's right in front of my right eye. So it's almost like I'm kind of refinding that line with my target, and I have to pay attention to what does that feel like and what does that look like out of my left eye, if that makes any kind of sense, hopefully. But then if I really want to do something else to illustrate that I don't change my throw speed, I don't change anything in my throw no matter what the target is, if I'm going to do that trick shot, where I get on my knees and I want to hit a double 20, I don't throw it any harder. I just put height on it. Instead of me throwing level, I'm throwing up at my target. But you have to still figure out where's that sweet spot of, okay, I'm aiming at a certain height to get right where I need to be. So like if I close my right eye, I don't need to close my eye for this one. But if I aim right at the double 20, or when I say aim, I just mean I'm putting that hand right, that dart right in between my eye and that camera. If I do the same thing here, then I just shoot the way I always do. Well, let's see what happens. I'm here, and then I shoot. Okay, well, I'm low by quite a bit. But let's say that, okay, I'm going to go to the very, very top of the board itself. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm still looking at the double 20, but at least in my peripheral vision, I can see my hand is higher up. So if I'm looking at the double 20 and I'm higher up and then I shoot, now I'm right on top of it. If I do the same thing, now, okay, I got it in the third dart. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just shooting up, and I'm finding that spot that gets the dart to land right where I need it to. So then I don't have to do anything than other what I'm supposed to. And then I just trust that if I throw it at just the right speed, just the right release, it's going to go in for me, whether I, you know, want it to or not. Hopefully, anyway. But again, just like when we shot the double nine earlier, that means that it doesn't matter what's on the line. It doesn't matter what my target is. If I have a double nine for a world championship, I line up, I shoot, I'm high. Line up, I shoot. Oh man. So even if I come over here, I don't change anything. It's just still right at my target, shoot, and I stuck it right in between them, and I just won a world title. It doesn't matter. I'm not thinking about again hitting or missing. I don't care that these darts are kind of blocking me. If anything, the fact that these two darts are sitting right here and there's an open spot, well, if I sit it right on top of here, there's only one place for that dart to go, which is right there, which is where I hit it. So in that case, instead of me trying to miss low, not miss low, but hit that target low, I'm just trying to put it right in between those two darts and let it guide it in for me. But that would like kind of, it was still long, but it wasn't the 2.5 hour version of what I go through. It was kind of more shortened, but I have that, it's the same talk to every single person. And what I try to do is I try to make it as detailed as possible while keeping it as generalized as possible so that I can give this talk to 5 different people and they can use it 5 different ways. But again, I'm not going to tell, well, you're really lifting your shoulder. I'm not going to tell you what you're doing necessarily right away. Instead, it's like new job training. Everybody gets the same training. And then if you're struggling at this area, that's what we're going to focus on next. Yeah, so the first one is general. Everyone gets the same information. And then follow-up sessions, that's where we really nail into what you're working on. I've had people that struggled with that zip line shot, and one person goes left, one person goes right. And he's like, it feels so much better than my old throw, but I can't throw straight. Sometimes, like I said, I'll take your mind off the board. Instead of thinking about the board, I'll have him like lay down on the floor, and I'll say, take a ball. And if you lay down on the floor and you just throw that ball straight up in the air, because it's the same action as a dart, you just sit there and you throw the ball. If you release it at just the right point and you actually throw it straight, the ball just goes straight up, and then it comes straight back down. It's just something, just take your mind off of trying to hit a target. It's about feeling what it should feel like. You mentioned, the archery thing. That's all it is. It's about feeling what you should be doing and then repeating that action later. Hell, I had somebody who, there's not necessarily anything wrong with this elbow kicked out. I can show you a video, and I'm sure if you Google it, Gary Anderson throw or something like that. There's a video where it shows old Gary Anderson where he's a lot more up and down. And then there's another video of Gary Anderson when he was winning world titles where his elbow is a little bit more out. So I'm not going to nitpick that too much, because if I'm here and I do more of that choppy throw, I'm cutting across the camera. Whereas if I'm here, but I push my hand in a flat line towards the camera, I'm still in line with my target. So it doesn't really matter. But one person didn't quite understand what I was getting at with that. And he's like, well, what does it matter if I do? Because he's like, well, if I cut across, I'm still coming across the camera. And as long as I release it at the right time. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But like, I even bought a laser pointer just for that guy, just so I can show him. And I'll try to do it like on the soft tip board over here as an example. But I'm like, if I have my elbow out and I go to throw, I'm cutting across the 20. But if I straighten out, now I'm cutting down the 20, which means that, okay, you might not be hitting the triple, but at least you're hitting a 20, because he hits a lot of 5s. He hits a lot of 1s, depending on when he releases the dart. So again, I'm not telling people what to do, but I'm going to show them why things might not, it might be more uncomfortable to do it this way, but there's a reason why people do it that way. Same thing if you've ever seen any of my like out videos where I kind of blew it out, anything on the board that doesn't leave you a finish. So on 128, I coached somebody, and he's the reason I made this video. I said on 128, we start in the 18s to make sure that we always have a shot at the finish. And he's like, yeah, but I don't really like 18s, so I don't want to go there. And I was like, okay, but if you go 20s and you hit a single, you can't finish. If you go 19s, can't finish. 17s, can't finish. 16s, can't finish. 15s, okay, well, you can't finish. Like there's no options. You have to go 18. And he just still kept saying, yeah, but I can't. I really suck at 18s. And I was like, all right, look. And then I erased everything on a dartboard that doesn't leave a finish after the first dart. And it's a bunch of doubles, the occasional triple, and then the entire wedge of the 18. And I'm like, that's why you go the 18. Because if you go 20, you're in the same position as if you had gone 18 and missed it anyway. So why wouldn't you go the way that gives you a chance? Because if just like a lot of people don't see 101 and 119 or even 120, they're the same shot. It's still a single double to a triple. There's a 20-point difference there, but it's still, you got to have to hit a triple, you have to hit a single, then you have to hit the double. It's the exact same shot. Same thing with 140 all the way up to 170. Everybody thinks about 170, but okay, it's harder because you have to hit the bull. So let's actually look at 160 to one, even down to like 131 or one in any of those. It's still two triples to a double. It's the same shot. It's not any harder. It's not any easier. But a lot of people think it's harder because, well, 130, I'm in the 130 range, or is 158 or 160, and they're like, oh my god, it's the same shot, exact same shot. So I'm more about getting people thinking about the game in a different way. Sometimes making things easier, which is, like I said, a 160 and a 131, same shot. It's two triples to a double. Um, and then on the physical side of stuff, like, yeah, there's a lot of pieces, but it's like if I handed you a puzzle that was 100 pieces and then a puzzle that's 1,000 pieces, they're not harder. It's just one has more pieces. It just takes more time to put it together. But because you have more pieces, you have a better understanding of how they all come together to work together. Too many people just show up to the board and they just throw until it kind of feels good. And then they try to remember what they're doing, but then obviously when they stop doing what they're supposed to, it's clear they don't actually know what they were doing in the first place. They have an idea, but they don't know. So I'm trying to give people a path to figuring that out. But anyway, I know I've been rambling for forever. Um, but like I said, I know that you do your stuff. You're trying to help other people, but you're also kind of documenting your own journey. Um, and I know I've worked, like I said, I've worked with a couple people that have worked with like Glenn Durant and Daniel Poole and Matthew Edgar. And I'm not saying in any way that I'm like better or worse than those guys, but obviously, from what I heard from them is I just do things a little bit different, and obviously people learn different. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to maybe chat with me. I want to say give you the opportunity. If anything, actually, I wanted you to give me the opportunity to chat with you. So other way around. And like I said, I try to relate it to things people know. So when I talk to people that were chefs, that's where I kind of came up with that idea of trying to give them something they can think about. Like it's not a hard process. It's just it comes in phases. Or like you said, I want everyone to know that it's really what works for you. But so many people just say that and leave it at that. Well, it's what works for you. And then now they're like, okay, but that doesn't help me. Like, what am I supposed to do? Okay, so then now I can tell you what you could do. Like, even if it's just the wrist thing. But what it does is I'm still not telling you what to do, but I'm showing you how you could work through and figure out what's working for you. And because I record all my sessions, I don't, I think the other guys do as well. But it's important to me that there's a lot of information here, and it's not easy to remember all of it. And I want you guys to kind of be able to revisit all that stuff. Um, but one of the things, real quick, while I have you here, is there's notes that I give everybody, and I can send you these notes as well. They're not as used as much. Basically, they're the notes that I made for myself. Let me see. There we go. Uh, these are the notes I made for myself, and then I just generalized them for everybody else. So it's like, what to do with your grip, wrist, and I always tell people, like, as you figure things out, you can change this. Like it's not one shared document. I drop an individual copy of this so you can do whatever you want. I have a couple things in here if they're useful to you. So I have a shot chart, I have an out chart, and then this one is a lot more confusing for people. I didn't. It was the best way I could think to use this, but like uh, this right here is a shot chart. Well, at the bottom it says I have three in hand and my opponent's on a finish. I have two in hand or I have one in hand. So you might find that on say 271, if I can find that here. So 271, if I have three in hand, my shot is a triple 19. But if I only have two in hand on 271, then I'm going for the 20. So this kind of gives you an idea of, for every single number from 2 all the way up to 501, what is someone like myself? What am I shooting for? Whether I've got 3 darts, 2 darts, or 1 dart in hand. Of course, this doesn't spell out why, I kind of want to give you like some room to kind of think about it before people start asking me, like, well, why do you go here? And then I'll explain it, no problem. Same thing with the out chart. I see an out chart saying do this, then do this. Okay, you're done. So on 271, I'm going, I just know it, like the way that if you hit 520s, you just know it's 100. That's all it is. I'm not doing any math. It's just all pattern. So if I have 271, I'm going 19s. Why? Because I already know if I go 20s and I only hit four of them, I'm at 191. Well, even a single bowl leaves me 166. So I'm not at a finish. I have to hit another triple. But if I go 19s and I hit four of them, score 76 to leave 195, well, now I can just hit a fat bowl and I'm either at 170 or 145. So I don't even have to hit two triples. I just have to hit one triple and then a bull. That's it. Same thing on 273. If you go in 20s or 19s or whatever, you can't leave a finish without hitting two trebles. Well, if I go 18s on the first start, if I only hit a single, then I have 255. I switch back to the 60. If I hit the triple, I got 195. I go down to the bull to leave 170. It's just the easiest way for me to leave a potential finish while only hitting one triple. But it's just pattern recognition. It's just I know every time I see that I have 315, I'm going triple 20, single bowl to leave 170. I don't even think about it. I recognize, I know what I shoot. Just like if you have 97, you're not doing any math. You just know treble 19, double 20. That's all it is. But with the let's see, raffle, there we go. But like with this one, and I'll zoom in a little bit, it's more like, okay, and if I come up here to let's say 148, for example, I have, and I probably should have changed this to where this scrolls down with you. But the whole idea is, okay, my first setup dart was perfect. My second setup dart was perfect. Where do I go? This is opponent on a finish. This is opponent not on a finish, because sometimes you go a different route if your opponent's not on a finish. So on like 135 or something like that, you don't have to go for the bull. So now I still do, but it is what it is. Now this, and again, this is the first dart is perfect. So on 135, yeah, I say you hit the double bull. Well, because if you shoot the bull and your dart's perfect, of course you hit the double. And then we go from there. But I say, okay, well, what happens if your first dart is perfect, but your second dart is not? Where do we go on the third dart? What happens if your first is missed, but then the second dart? I give you every scenario where, you got anything in red, you can't finish. Anything in green is a potential finish. I even included the numbers, let's see, 159, 162 down at the very bottom. Obviously, you can't take these out, but people still need to know how to set up from there. Yeah. And then I have this one, which is, okay, how can I leave these numbers that are a little bit more preferred by using the bull? And that's scoring 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, or 99, 101, whatever. But then at the bottom, I actually say, okay, this is how you can score 61. You can go 2016 bull, you can go 1917 bull, you can go 1818 bull, and so on. So let's say that on 90, or let's say, and these are the numbers where it actually makes sense to go bulls. Like it follows the natural path of the throw. Like theoretically, you can go bulls anytime, but there's times where it just doesn't make sense to do that. So let's say on 141, you decide that you want to use the bull. Let's say I go, okay, 141, I go single 20. I got 121. Let's say that I stay there on the 20 and I hit a 20 now. I got 101, but I've got one dart left. If you stay on the 20 and hit a single, you score 60. Now you're at 81, meaning that you're either going to have to go, you have to hit a treble to get to a double, or you're going to go like single 19, single 12 for a bull. Or you could just take the third dart at the bull. And if you do that, well, 20 and 20 is 65. And that's why I have it in green here, which means that you're leaving 76 instead of 81. Because now you can just go 2016 tops, or however you want to take that out. So this one's a little bit more confusing, but it's just an idea of how can I use the bull to easily score. So I talked about that 103 to leave 170. Well, it's an 18, a 60, and a bull. Same thing on 274. You could go 19, a 60, then a bull to score 104 to leave 170. This chart's a little more confusing, but it's still, if you know how to use it, it could be helpful. Then the only other thing that I was going to show you here was I took a clip of MVG and myself, and I'm going to draw a really bad picture because obviously I can talk through people and I can tell them what to not tell them what to do, but everything that we just talked about. But I need them to see it. So, like I said, if you haven't seen the out charts that I was making for people, let me see if I have it. Dart pictures, out visuals. So, like for 128, when I talked about that, is I made a video, or I made a clip that looks like this. So on your first dart, these are the only options that leave you a finish. And this is what I made for that guy, saying, look, you have to go for the 18. Why? Because you have this entire section that still leaves you a finish. Everything else, you could, but you got to be perfect. But anyway, I've got that whole series on like my YouTube and Facebook or whatever. So if you haven't seen it and you want to look at it, go for it. But so I have a video of MVG. I'm going to let him throw his first start here, but I'm going to pause it here. Let's blow this up. I need them to see what I'm talking about when I talk about keeping that elbow low and relaxed wrists and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to slow this down to about a quarter speed. And since you said you're screen recording, that's actually why I'm doing this. Didn't initially plan to, but I'm going to do it now. But so when he starts to come up, you can see that that wrist isn't cocked back. In fact, he kind of pushes his hand out a little bit to flatten a little bit more. But other than that, there's no cocked back. His elbow is well below the shoulder. He just pulls back and he lets gravity kind of sit there. Because I've had somebody, just to come back to me for a minute, say, oh, I try to copy your throw. I pull that wrist back. And I'm like, I don't do that. And he's like, yeah, you do. And then I'm like, no, I don't. And I'm like, because it's, if I just let my wrist dangle here, well, I'm not pushing my wrist forward. It's just hanging there. So if I just kind of let my hand just sit on the wrist, yeah, when I have my hand back here, but I could very easily pull it down farther if that's what I was actually doing. So I don't do that at all. It's just relax there, and it allows me to push straight through. But if I come back over here, I'm going to draw a stupid little picture. I've drawn this 150 times. You think I'd be better at it, but I'm really not. But all right, so his shoulder line is right here. So clearly well below the shoulder line. If I look at where his eyes are looking and I draw a line this direction, here's what I expect. That fat part of the hand is going to push straight up in this direction. And this is where I'm really bad at drawing, but I'm trying to illustrate. He's pushing in a straight line towards what his eyes are looking at. But what's going to happen is when that elbow does finally come up, and the elbow is going to come up when his hand gets about right here. But that's also about where he's going to let go of the dart. So when the elbow pops up, then the hand gets pulled down, and then he finishes here. So everything is nice and level. But that initial action is just a straight line up towards his target. So if I can pause this at just the right moment, you'll find that, okay, he's moving up right towards this guy's forehead, which is right where I said it was going to be. And then, oh, I missed it. But I'm gonna come back one more time. All right, so he comes up. Everything is nice and relaxed. That wrist looks like it might be cocked back, but I promise you it's not. He comes straight to the guy's forehead, but you can see the dart is in a straight line towards where his eyes are looking. It's right above that light there, but it's coming in this direction. And you can tell that that dart came out of his hand about right here somewhere, which is right where I said it would be. And then that elbow pops up and flattens everything out. So now if I don't pause it and we just watch it in normal motion, that elbow is down, he's here, the hand goes up, and then the elbow rises to allow him to stay in that straight line with everything. So then if I come over to myself from a while ago, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Come on. Let me refresh this because apparently it didn't like that I maximized it. So I'm not going to maximize it this time. But if I slow this down, I'm going to let myself throw this first start though, because obviously, well, yeah, let me throw this first start, get out of the way. And it's slow motion. There we go. All right. So you can kind of see that little finger thing I was talking about here. Where this was around the time I was first kind of trying that out a little bit. To build that consistency, but it's just, but even the whole way through the throw, that doesn't change. I don't relax it. I just keep it there. It's not stiff, it's not tight, but I'm not letting it move either. But I talked about, I hit that point with my elbow. My wrist is not cocked back. It's just kind of relaxed. I've been to literally nothing, not even the wrinkles on my shirt move. It's just a bend of the elbow, get it right in front of my eye, and you can see the darts level. So if I draw that same stupid picture that I just did with MVG, well, I stand up a little bit taller than MVG, but I'm also a little bit taller than MVG. So I'm almost exactly eye level with around where the triple 20 is. So if I draw the same little chart here, the elbow's obviously down. So the elbow's going to come up to this level. My hand is kind of cut in half by the sporty stuff. But again, if I lead right here and I pull this up towards where my line of sight is, it's going to be very flat. And then when the elbow comes up about right here, that's going to pull my hand down, and then I'm going to finish about right there. So if we run through this, I pull back just a smidge. If I pause right here, you can see my hand came up a little bit, but not, I know it's blurry, but if this is right where my wrist and hand kind of meet, I only came up maybe half a hand, but I'm still in that line of sight with everything here. If I pause one more time, you can see that dart came out, my elbow's still down, and only now is my wrist starting to fall over. But then when I finish the throw, everything is nice and level. So I'm not chopping. So I'm not doing like a, if I draw a little stick figure bob over here, I don't have my elbow here where I pull back and then I chop where my elbow never moves. It's, I don't want this spot right here where the release point is, because obviously we could come up and then we're coming down. It's, I want it to be flat. It's almost like I'm taking the arch and turning it sideways, where now this is the part going towards the board, not having something that's very choppy, if that makes sense. But anyway, I tried to, it's maybe not the best example because obviously video can be a little bit misleading, but it at least gives an idea of, you can go draw that stupid little picture on anybody just about in the highest level of darts, and you're going to find the same thing. They all have that elbow down and they all throw in a straight line towards their target. So um, let's see, if I go to, there's one more thing I'm going to show you, then I can leave you alone. So if you didn't see it, I posted it to some of the other pages, and I'm going to do a follow-up video why those, again, the line tracings and stuff like that aren't actually that helpful. But what it does help is, are you lifting the elbow as you draw back? There are certain things that it is very good for. Um, so if I pull this up, let me go to my raffle. Let me pull this up. So I don't care about the 180. So like this 180, oh, that's the first one. So this 180, it's the same spot every time. It's, I pull back, I go forward, I'm here, I pull back. So it's a very flat line that we were talking about. It's, I pull back, and instead of following that, because if you have a choppy throw, you're following the same up as you are the same forward. But if I'm here, I push forward, well, now you see the flat lines there. But what I really care about is on this 141, when I talked about how I don't change anything in my throw. Instead, I just kind of change that. Instead of being here, I might be more here. It's not a, most people probably wouldn't even pick up on me like kind of leaning into it or kind of using my waist or whatever. But what you'll see here is, okay, for the 20, I'm right here. For the 19, well, I'm just a little bit below. And then, and then for the double 12, if you can see that the 20 and the 19 are exactly the same path, it's still very flat. But if the 19 is below the 20, well, because the 20 is a lot higher, well, if the double 12 is not that much higher than the triple 20, so it's not going to be this much of a gap. If anything, I almost come to the same spot as the triple 20, but I just push a little bit higher, like just a little bit higher. This is the difference between a triple 20 and a triple 19. This is the difference between that triple 20, but it's the same flat. So that's what I want to emphasize to people, is that what I do, there's a reason behind it. And all I'm trying to accomplish is that comfortability of here straight to my target. And once I get the physical part down, as long as I can get, okay, now my throw speed, the release point. And again, for me, the release point, I'm not thinking about my release. If I just, it's like I'm, again, like I'm throwing the ball to my buddy. The hand, the dart just comes out of the hand naturally if I'm not thinking about the release. And then as long as my line is how it should be, I don't miss. I mean, I do, but it's a lot easier to not miss. But anyway, like I said, I know I took up a lot of your time, but as you can tell, this is, yes, I do. I don't want to say I make a living at this. I still make more money playing darts, but I just genuinely love trying to like have people have that like light bulb moment. Or I've had some people, look, hey, I've had some people that haven't improved. They haven't gotten worse, but they haven't improved. But everybody's different. Some people, they didn't improve. Why? Well, they had a kid or they had a job change, so they weren't able to put the time in. That's fine. Then there's other people that they just they just couldn't figure it out, and that's fine. But at least we're thinking about it. But I've also had players that within a year, I have a guy that had only been playing for about a year. He was about a low 50 average, and now he's a mid 70 average, and he's going to play on the CDC Pro Tour over here this coming year. So I've had people that have made really big jumps. But there's no, I don't want to make people feel like, well, if you don't make progress, it's your own fault. Like darts is hard. It's fine. But I genuinely love doing this stuff. I don't want to say it's a passion project for me, but Um, Obviously, I just couldn't stop myself from like, you know, giving you what I got. What I tell people is even experts at this stuff, not I don't know that I want to refer to myself as an expert, but even even if you look at say like a doctor, or if you take your car into the shop, sometimes okay, if the front end of your car fell off, they probably know what the problem is. Or if your elbow is bending the opposite direction, again, a doctor knows what's wrong. But sometimes there's nothing that's obvious. But they don't just say like, "Oh, I know what your problem is." They have to ask you questions. Well, how do you feel? What happens with this? What does that weird sound your car make when does it happen when you give it gas? They have to ask questions to then have an idea of what it probably is. Even then, they still don't know for sure, but based on their experience, they know this is probably what it is. So when people go through a slump, well, if they went through like something like my process where they work through, okay, how does this feel? How does that feel? They can start to say, well, I remember that when I was working through my wrist action, when I had my palm more towards the board, I was more likely to push it left, or I can feel that. They can recall that and then make quicker, better adjustments based on that. So again, I want people to think about darts like an engineer versus and hopefully you and anything that you share with people, and again, I'm not even asking you to do that. If you want to do that, that's fine. I'm doing this for you. um you're fine. Let's say that you put out this entire thing as is. Let's say you just say, hey, here's a conversation I had with Spelman. One thing that I want to note is, again, I'm not saying I'm going to be right. I'm not saying I'm going to be wrong. I'm just giving a different perspective, because there may be things that other coaches that are out there, we may agree very much on a lot of things, and we may disagree very much on the cool thing though is that you get to try either. If they say no, I don't like that, you need to do this instead, you can try both, and then you can see which one works for you, because again, what works for me may not work for you. My process may be way too much, but to me, we're not overthinking anything. I don't want you at the line, trying to tinker with things on the fly. Instead, I want you to understand, pay attention to what's going on, like I said. But if it's one out of every 30 darts, I don't care. If it's every dart, think about, well, how does it feel? Am I throwing across my body? Am I jerking my arm? Am I throwing too fast? uh, I don't want you to make a change in the middle of the match, because that's where, like I said, that's where the overthinking comes in. It's just know what's happening and then react to it on the practice board. But because I don't focus on winning and losing, I don't focus on anything other than playing well. And how do I play well? I do what I'm physically supposed to. Then it just takes care of itself. Yep. Have a good one, man. Enjoyed it. Thank you.